Greetings traders, this is Houston Trong from thetradingedge.org, and here is your weekly market outlook for August the 3rd to the 7th, 2020. So before we begin the video this week, just a quick announcement. Next week I'm actually going to be off on vacation for a week. Nowhere too exotic, of course, during these times, but we'll be off for a week, so this weekly market outlook video will not be out next week. So hopefully this week's video will tie you over for a couple weeks until we speak again in a couple of weeks' time. So let's talk about the markets now. So this past week we got a bit of everything, right? So volatility, we're asking for volatility this week. Did we get it? Yes, check. Did we get some volatility from the Fed reaction? Check. Did we get some earnings movers? Check. Did the markets hit all-time highs? Check. Well, the Qs did, but not the rest of the indices, but certainly you can check that one off your list. So the markets are really firing on all cylinders, and you can pretty much say that the markets are completely under the spell and trance of the Fed. So, whether or not, the economy looks good or not, whether or not earnings are good or not, the reality is that the markets are going up and largely due in part to the Fed. Right now the markets are going up and it's probably good, probably a good bet that the reasoning for behind it is that it's a big bet on the real interest rates, right? The fact is that the Fed has been signaling for a while that they will not be raising interest rates anytime soon. In fact, their language suggests that they're not even talking about the option of talking about raising interest rates. So they're really far away from any hawkishness. So for the time being, what you're seeing is a rally into obviously precious metals. This is a real beneficiary as the markets have been showing us that the dollar is depreciating. The real buying power of the dollar is depreciating as the Americans continue to have large stimulus packages, and the question is, how far will these real assets, how far will they move? So let's step into this coming week now. We still have a very busy econ calendar and earnings week ahead of us. In terms of the econ calendar, we get the ISM number on Monday at 10 a.m., one to watch. Then on Thursday, we have the jobless claims number. So it's been 3 consecutive weeks now. It's turning into a bit of a trend where the actual jobless claims are larger than the expected number. So this past week we had over 1.4 million claims, and the consensus was going to be around 1.38. So the number is increasing in terms of jobless claims. And then the all-important NFP non-farm payroll comes out this coming Friday at 8:30. So definitely expect some volatility and people jockeying into that number. Lots of earnings on top. We did get the majority of the big names report already this past week, but we still have a lot of earnings on tap this coming week. So some interesting names to watch. On Monday, you got SPCE. So Spaces was a former high flyer. Let's see if we can get back to those levels again. Disney on Tuesday, should be interesting to watch that one. Beyond Meat on Tuesday as well, and those are some good. Beyond Meat's a good beta name to be trading. Disney just be one to watch. Twilio, I like to trade that name, TWLO. On Wednesday, you got Square and Roku, some really good names to watch there. Moderna has kind of pulled back a bit, so mRNA, a good one to watch. And then on Thursday, G Pro, Uber, good ones to watch. And then Friday, I think is kind of level off a bit in terms of earnings. But again, don't forget that NFP number should be interesting to watch. All right, so let's go into the charts now and talk about the week ahead, where we actually came from this past week, and what to look out for the next couple of weeks as I'm going to be out the week after. So let's jump into the VIX as we always do, and we'll begin from there. So I'm not going to go too deep into the lower time frames this week because the reality is, I'm not going to be around next week to add the commentary. So I want to give you a higher time frame look this week, and hopefully, if you've watched enough of these videos, you've heard me repeat things enough times now that in your head you can kind of hear my voice in the background giving you the commentary, right? So as we go through these patterns, you kind of you get a, you'll know my perspective because you know what I'm looking at in terms of these charts and how I would be reading them. So, all indications now on the VIX, look, log chart, 3-month chart, outside, inside, down. It's broken down now. We expect this level to ultimately get tested, or that's the pivot to go after. Doesn't mean it's going to be a smooth line, but that is the path of least resistance right now, as things just basically, as the VIX volatility decays back through the range again. It would take a lot, right? I'm saying it would take a lot. There can be definitely scares along the way, but in order for the VIX to pop back up again, we'd have to get a whole new set of circumstances, a whole new set of macro conditions, and unforeseen things to occur for the VIX to pop up again. Maybe it would be some sort of geopolitical risk or some big event around maybe the pandemic, but everything else has kind of been factored in. So we'd have to get a brand new unknown. So not a known, but some sort of unknown for the markets to have to reprice things again. But as it seems right now, we're just melting back through the range again, as the markets have seemingly priced in a lot of these things are coming out now, even a second wave pandemic. So we're Momo down on the monthly chart. From VIX, that means the momentum's down. So even though it's going slowly on the daily charts, on the monthly and on the quarterly, it's Momo down. Okay, so that doesn't change. Now look, this month is finished now. This month of July is in the books, right? So July's in the books. Now, in order for this thing to reverse, you got to take out that pivot, 3601. Okay, so you got to go all the way back through there in order to really trigger things. On the weekly chart, slow, it's tight, but it was because it was so choppy with all the news events and all the earnings flow that it was going back and forth for a lot of the week. So inside, outside, and down. This is a Momo down. Inside week, just consolidating. Will not take much now. This is what we're looking for, right? All you gotta do is break this. We're watching to see how this thing breaks. I'll delete some of these lines here because we did fill those gaps already. That green line's gone. So we got to break this gap. I mean, it's this inside bar. Okay, so we're gonna watch and see which side of price this is gonna go, and then, as we always do, we're watching to see how price transacts, right, in relation to these purple lines, the high and low of this past week. If it breaks below, that it signals us that we're heading lower. If it breaks above and stays above, again, breaks below, stays below, breaks above, stays above. That's what you're watching for, right? If it's breaks down, pops back up again, then that's that is a pause in the signal. It's only until you break the ranges and stay outside the ranges does the signals basically come into effect, so to speak. Okay, so for now, inside week, tight stuff, but we're watching to see how that thing breaks, because intra week, this is what's been going on. It's been a really slow ride, but it's and I'll show this on the SPY chart in a few moments here, but it basically did its thing. So here, outside bar up, okay, that's the Momo up condition. Look, hits that 200 period moving average, finds resistance right away, turns into a gap reversal sell. That was a gap reversal sell, right? Last Friday, remember I indicated that last Friday, or until last week's video, I said that was a reversal signal right there, hitting the 200-day. It's a gap reversal, and they did its thing on Monday, Tuesday. It took out all the pivots. Okay, did not take out that pivot though. That low there is still in effect, 28.15. That's the prior week's low. So that's still a pivot to go after. But look, outside and up, and they took out that pivot there. That was the one to go after because that's part of this momentum move. Any buyers who try to get really slick and try to buy, they bought the lows here and they thought they were going to make a bunch of money as it was going to maybe run through up here again. They quickly got stopped out, right? 2 days of lower lows and stopped them out if they took their stops and they put it below there, right? This low has not been taken out yet, but it's very, very close. If it goes inside week, down next week, they're taking out that pivot, very, very likely. And then, we had a bit of a scare on Thursday, but you can see it's in a clear downtrend. We haven't had a higher high in the VIX in some time, right? Like this is your higher high. That's back in June. So this high is higher than that high. But since then, there are no higher highs. This week here, right, came close to taking out last week's high, but they did fade it. This is the 20-day moving average. There's your 200-day moving average again. Those are all coming into play, acting as resistance, and they do an inside bar up, and they fade it once again. Inside bar up, reversal. There's your inside bar reversal back down again. Took out that low. Right? So those guys who, again, try to get slick and try to buy this move, if they did not take profits, they got stopped out as this low got taken out. So there's your VIX chart. Now we're waiting to see how this inside week breaks for the coming week. Let's talk about SPY now. Okay, SPY. So SPY going into all-time highs. This is my belief anyways. We're really only 3.6%. Oops, sorry, I jumped out of that chart. We're only 3.6% away from those all-time highs. See, from where we closed, I mean, did I draw that right? Yeah, from where we closed, 3.61% away from all-time highs. This is an outside bar, inside bar, an up scenario going after that pivot. I would be very, very surprised if we don't take out that pivot. Not saying once again it's going to happen in a straight line. The markets don't work that way most of the time. But that's the pivot to go after. Right, that's that's the path of least resistance. Now that path may not be a smooth path to get up there, but that's probably a pivot you can definitely be assured it's going to get hit at some point. It's just too obvious of a pivot. Okay, actually I'm a little off here, so I redrew it 3.85%. So that's a better drawing there. So look, this is 3 consecutive months of higher highs. So Momo down, inside bar consolidation, Momo up up. Not Momo up, excuse me. 3 higher highs, 3 higher months in a row, higher, 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 and there we go. We've talked about that pattern at nauseum, at length in many videos. So here's a SPY weekly chart now. This is Momo up, okay? Momo up, up, up. 3 weeks of higher highs, and this week it went inside week. Came very, very, very close to breaking this prior week's high, but it ended as an inside week. The buyers, though, they fought back hard on Friday, and they're in full control. So there you go. Remember, it was this. Yeah. So now that we got the month done, we can redraw our red line. So that was the prior month's high. This is the current month's high. So July's highs, and all we gotta do is break up above 327.23, and that creates another month of higher highs. For now, I'm just going to draw another line here. If you want to see big reversal, I just want to make sure we're drawing both sides of the picture here, because I'm not going to be around next week. But if you want to see a larger reversal, this is the bear scenario. Next week when we open up in the month of August, you open up somewhere in here or gaps up, wherever it goes. If somehow you can take out this low in the month of August, that is bearish. That's very, very bearish. Although even again, the 3-month lows are way down here. So see, 3-month low. I'm gonna throw, yeah. You have to basically break way down to here. Okay, so to make a reversal on the quarterly chart, you'd have to break way down to 243.90. What's the chances of that happening in the month of August? I'm gonna say it's pretty slim. The reason why it was more, it was easier, as I said already in previous videos, why it was such a big reversal back in Q1 was because we took out Q4's lows. Right, so that low there was taken out in Q1. That's what made things so scary for some people, is because that doesn't happen very often. And when it does, people get worried. It's a larger reversal. That's what you have to see happen again. You'd have to see, again, this quarter is not done yet, right? So this bar is not closed. So this one would have to go all the way down here to create a reversal. Very unlikely that's going to happen. So for the time being, the bias has to be the upside, because the quarterly open is right there. Okay, so lots of room for that thing to work to the upside still. This thing has to go all the way back through here, break below this red line, and at that point, then you have a red quarter. So you got a lot of work to do for that to happen. Okay, so on the SPY, you got the inside week. We'll redraw that level, and then we'll see that all we gotta do is crack over that. And I'm gonna recreate this line here, and there's our level. Okay, so we're waiting to see how that inside week breaks. So on the SPY chart, it's going slowly, as I mentioned already, but on the VIX side, but it's working its way up. It hasn't been as clean as I won't say clean, but it hasn't been as swift as the VIX to stop out people, but it's happening. So look, there's your Momo down condition that gets extinguished right there. You got a brand new week. This is the Monday, right? So this is the gap reversal. Go back to last week's video. I talked about the gap reversal, how this got filled. That was a buy signal right there. It pops up again right there. And now eventually they're going after that pivot. That pivot there is 327.23. It came close on well, I was gonna say close on Friday. It was still, what is it? 23, 20. Yeah, so 60 cents away. So we still got 60 cents to go to fill that pivot, or to hit that pivot. All right, there's your inside week, but it's slowly doing its thing. Okay, so what's basically happening here is that if you look on a lower time frame or on a different time frame, it's basically creating a fractal broadening formation, because this low here is lower than that low there. And eventually, as we pop out of this break above there, it's going to come back here and create this type of broadening formation, because the market moves in those types of waves. Okay, so there's your slow move back up again to take out that prior pivot high. Again, I'll be very, very surprised if we don't take out that pivot high, because that's also an outside bar, also fractal broadening formation. Okay, so on the 2-day chart, it was very, very clear. It's tight stuff because people are getting stopped out in here. They're getting stopped out both ways, right? Anytime you see these outside bars, you know that people are getting stopped out on either side of those bars, because that's where people usually put their stops. So outside bar, inside bar. So then we got the outside bar again. So people are getting stopped out a lot here in the sequence as the shorts are getting, they're trying to get short here, but they're clearly getting stopped out. The longs, we're getting stopped out on the way down. Shorts are getting stopped out back on the way back up again. And we've got a Momo up now on the 2-day chart. Momo up. This is when you know you're going to get some volatility, when you start seeing stuff like this. So here on, this is Wednesday, I believe. Yeah, or is it Tuesday? Yes, Tuesday. Yeah, Tuesday we knew we were going to get the volatility, because this is your Monday. Sorry, this is Wednesday. Yeah, so here's your Monday. Oh, that's Friday here. Monday, Tuesday, and there's your Wednesday volatility. That's the Fed day, right? So here, double outside bars. So this is a very interesting pattern to watch for, because what you understand what you're looking at here is that this is actually a broadening formation. So when you have outside bar, even when you have just one single outside bar, it's actually a broadening formation. All right. So here, what's actually happening there is that the markets are doing price discovery. So here, you can see this bar takes out that prior bar's low. Look, that basically connects, and I didn't even draw it that way, but they do connect. They're pretty much dead on. Okay, and then it comes out the other side. So it comes back the other side because it's going to take out that pivot once again. It's going to actually take out that pivot again, because now you're going to draw it like this. It's going to get drawn like this. There. So I don't know if you can tell what's happening there, but if you go bar by bar, outside bar, people get stopped out on the short side. People get stopped out on the long side, right? Then upside, so whoever wins this battle, up or down, is going to run. It runs for 8 hours. That's Wednesday session. That's your FOMC. Hits the top. Now, if it doesn't keep going, because this is Momo up, as soon as it breaks below there, it's coming back to the range. It's taking out that low for sure, right? Boom. There's your low, gets taken out. Now, look, it's honoring this is your weekly open. They buy it back again. That's the bottom of that Bollinger Band. Here's your moving averages. They buy it back again on Thursday. Inside bar. That means they ran out of juice to sell the sellers. The buyers brought it back. And then what happens? On Friday, you get a bit of a slow start in the morning, but then they buy it back again on Friday afternoon, taking out that pivot high. Well, actually, it gapped up, taking out that pivot high, and then they bought it back in the afternoon. So there's your understanding of that broadening formation sequence there. That's just the way the market moves in those types of sequences, because they're trying to stop people out, because that's why they know there's liquidity. And ultimately, that's the pivot to go after as we expand this broadening formation further and further to get into a wider one, because there's actually a wider one in play here versus the really tight stuff. Now this stuff here may look tight, but again, if you're trading let's say let's make it reasonable, the 30-minute chart, these are actually big moves, right? Look at that 30-minute chart, right? It's coming from side to side, side to side. People are getting very confused here, because obviously it looks like it's making lower lows until it goes makes a higher high, right? So that's why it's benefits to take a step back sometimes. Well, most of the time. This is why I do the videos, because I hope it helps you see the bigger time frames and the bigger picture, because I know it certainly helps me to do these videos to see those wider time frames. Okay, so there's the quick 101 today on broadening formations and this past week's price action. So I'm going to delete that price action now. There's your SPY. So let's run through things a little faster now, as we have all the kind of details out of the way, because the rest of the charts, they pretty much look the same. The Qs gunning into all-time highs. So all-time highs again in the Qs. Look at this move. It's Momo up on the quarterly chart. It's Momo up. Okay, so it's 2 consecutive quarters now of higher highs. That means we've had Look at this. 1, 2, 3, 4 months of higher highs on the Qs. Each month, higher highs. Do not want to bet against that yet. This week here, a little slower, but basically, you know this pattern. If you watch these videos, outside bar down. It looked like the world's ending last week, right? Oh no, the world's ending. Then it was inside bar. Now all we gotta do this week is if we break above this week's highs, we're going after that pivot, and then we're going back to all-time highs again. So it's getting close. So there's your Qs, and again, we're just looking for that range. You don't need to break down the price action any further, but basically on the daily chart, just looking for this. It's Momo up now. Momo up. Let's see how far it goes. Right. So look at that strong momentum candle on Friday. Basically, no body. It goes down here at one point, but they bought it all the way back again, shoving it right back to those highs and closing, right on, basically close to where it opened up. So very, very strong showing by the buyers there. Momentum bar, Momo up move now. You just want to see how far this thing goes. You got to take out that low to extinguish that Momo. Okay, let's talk Dow. Dow, kind of a slow week for Dow. It actually was one of the weaker ones along with the Russell because it did break down a bit. But anyone who shorted that quickly got run over. I actually tried to short during the week there and I got run over. So I said I'm not trying that again. And the buyers of the Dow fought back. So outside inside on the quarterly right now. So it's still, unlike the SPY and the Qs, has not made higher highs yet on that quarterly chart. Monthly chart also tight inside month so far. The month of August is now in play. We're now in play now for the month of August. This means the range of July can be drawn in, and you want to see how this month's range gets taken out. Okay, so there we go. So there's our actually I don't want that color, excuse me. I'm gonna redraw this color here in orange. Okay, so our weekly chart looks like this, and all indications now is that the buyers bought it back. So it was an inside week down, which is why I tried to trade that break there. Was in the money a little bit until they slammed it right back again. So at this point here, if we break above this past week's high, we got that inside bar reversal on the weekly chart. So that's what we're waiting to see here. If they do not get it, so let's say the sellers are able to break it below this past week's lows, that's bearish, right? Because all indication right now is that this thing should be a buying bar. If it breaks above here and fails and all of a sudden goes outside bar down, that is definitely a bearish signal. So that's something to watch for now, because the buyers, they need to step up here to defend this level. If they take out that high, then it's you're going back to all those all-time highs, and that's what I'm biased towards for the Dow. So for now, that's what we're waiting for the Dow, and it is Momo up on the quarterly on the 4-hour chart for the Dow. Let's see how far that thing goes. But again, it's this potential inside bar reversal is what's is what I'm gonna be watching for. Because if you break above, if it goes above here, they're going after that pivot right away, right? And look, that orange line is the prior month's high. Yeah, right there, right? That's July's high. So if you can go after this high, this next coming week, it's going to immediately go after the following week's high. That's that's July's highs, and that's going to trigger an inside week up on the monthly. Very bullish. And look, it's going to go after that pivot right there. Okay, so that's the pivot. That creates the broadening formation, right? So there's your monthly broadening formation, as you can see there, that sequence. I haven't redrawn this thing, right? I haven't tried to be cute and redraw it to fit these levels up here. I could do that, but I just want to show you that that's the wider pattern that's in play right now, and it's held the price action very, very well. So on to the Russell. Russell, same kind of weakness as the Dow. Didn't go inside week down, but it did make a lower low this past week, but firmly inside month. So the month is done. The month of July is done, so we'll redraw our level there. And again, we see, can this inside month break this this coming week or not, or the next week following? And on the weekly chart, you did have a lower low that happened, right? So you broke below that week's lows, but they bought it right back again. So this is what I mean. It's not always as simple as saying, well, if it breaks below that level, then it's bearish right away. Well, yes, that's true. The sellers did show they had the upper hand at one point, but the fact is, if you cannot break below that level and stay below that level, then it's the pattern is kind of not enforced. No one's kind of you can't say you're the aggressor. especially since you got a green quarter still, you got a green month still, and you're trading above all these moving averages that a lot of folks are looking at, which are going to act as natural levels of support. So the sellers certainly have, the stiffer task to break this thing down, especially since the the Qs is going gangbusters to the upside. So there's your IWM, and just again, take a quick look at this picture here. That is a broad information right there. I don't know if you can see it, but I'll quickly draw it for you. Higher high, it goes to a lower high, right? And this lower low, this low here, is lower than that prior low right there. Okay, so you can see the sequence there. It goes Momo up. As soon as that low gets taken out, you got to watch out, because it's going to come back through that whole Momo up condition. It does that, stops out everyone who bought on Monday, put their stop below there. So if you look at a lower time frame, it looks like so. Here's your 4-hour chart, right? And you can see it do its little wall walk and then come right back down again to the other side. If you look at the 60, it's always nice to see this stuff on different time frames. I can redraw this little level here. Looks like that. So that there, it's like that, and you can see that low here takes all those lows there on Monday. Okay, so that's the nature of the broad informations, but it's harder to see it this way. But when you see it on the day, well, it's each person sees it slightly. It's easier for some people to see it on a daily chart, easier for some people to see it on lower time frames. But once you see the principles, it doesn't matter how you draw it, because you understand what's actually happening is that it's simply a supply demand equation. We know there's stops there, right? If this move is gonna cut through a Momo up condition, they're gonna go after the start of that Momo move, and that's gonna be that. Right? So then you can try to draw fancy broad informations to see if you can catch that low, and it happens to work this time around. But in essence, the principle matters more than the actual levels themselves. Okay, so there's your Russell chart, little broad information happening there, tight stuff. And when you see trading like that, people are getting stopped out, right? So some people are very frustrated leaving the week, because they made some money at the short side, they made some money at the downside, but in the end, it basically went nowhere. It went, kind of flat. So let's go on to TSX now. This is a market that's very, very tight. Needs some leadership here, but the bias is higher, right? So it's doing its, said already, TSX is actually one of the first ones to go inside and up on the quarter. It's trying to make its way back up to those all-time highs, but going very, very slowly, drifting upwards. 3 consecutive months of higher highs, inside bar, up, up, up. Okay, and this week here, so it's still basically a continuation of this move. Inside bar, well, it's actually this move here. Momo down, inside bar, that gets extinguished right there. All right, so higher high, inside bar, higher high, higher high, higher high, higher high. So except for that little consolidation week, where people kind of fell asleep because it was a brand new month, there was 3 consecutive weeks of higher highs. This thing's not moving very fast, but the bias is, there's no question what the bias should be. It's to the upside. Okay, there's your TSX. And let's do now the emerging markets. The emerging markets have been taking a bit of a break, but man, they had a really good July. So nothing, you can't really take it away from the emerging markets. It took a bit of a break to close the last couple of weeks, but for its part, it's also one of the first markets to go outside, inside, and up. We're going after that pivot high right now. Okay, in the monthly chart, you had a really good July. Look at that July right there, up 8%. That's not a bad month for EM. So let's duplicate that line there. Now we simply want to see how far does this thing go. Can I break above July's highs? It's a Momo down, inside month, and then 3 months of higher highs. On the week, it's choppy stuff. So this is very, very choppy. Outside bar up, goes down, up, up. So 2 weeks of higher highs, but it's choppy stuff here, and it's not removing that much. There is, on the 2-day chart here, a bit of momentum to the downside, but I would not be surprised this thing to get extinguished very quickly, as we have some Chinese ADRs reporting next week, some earnings, and that'll be interesting to watch and see how far this Momo down condition goes. Here's your EM. Let's talk about bonds now. TLT, man, TLT has been on a roll, had a very, very good month of July. So let's redraw our ranges for the month of August. So for the month, it closed up 4.3% after doing the down month, right? We saw the buyers step back in here right off of that formation. Here's that monthly broad formation that's also playing out on the bonds. These broad formations tend to act as, or these resistance lines anyways, these trend lines tend to act as support and resistance. Bounces off of that level, and then you buy back, and they're trying to go after that pivot there now. That's an outside inside down move, and they're going after that, and then that pivot there. It's still inside quarter though, so it's going real slow. It's working its way back up again, but here it's the continuation. There is no this has been in a, you know, we haven't had any lower lows since Q4 2018. That's how long it's been, right? So look, 1, 2, 3 quarters of higher highs, then inside quarter, higher high again, big quarter in Q1. Remember that, up 21%, and then inside quarter. So this is productive consolidation right now. And this quarter, you could easily take out that pivot high. That looks like it's going for it. And you know, we're going to go back to those all-time highs on the TLT product. As your TLT on the week, it's a continuation. So this, you know, we called it out last, I mean, it's been a few weeks now. But here on the weekly chart, let's go with this guy here. There, outside, inside, right? So we saw that one a while back. Outside, inside, 2 weeks ago. Up, continuation move. 2 weeks of higher highs. We draw that range now, and we see, can it come, does it keep going? I would expect it to keep going. Because there's no inclination that there's no indication that this thing is done going further. Okay, so there's your TLT product. Again, the rates are going down, so rates are going, well, not going down, but they're just not going anywhere. They're probably going to negative. So that's certainly looks like prices are going higher. Okay, so there is your TLT product. Let's talk about gold now, man. Gold has been on fire ever since that breakout that we signaled a while back. It's been how many weeks now that we get that breakout? Way back here, remember that? Back in June, we called it. So here, this thing is in a bullish market. Again, all dips are buying opportunities. If you can find the right dip to buy on, this thing has been a buying opportunity for a while. Because on the quarterly chart, just like the Qs, it is Momo up, right? So it's been Momo up since this condition here, since July 2019. Well, this technically, yeah, right here, that quarter. So Momo up, inside bar, 3 consecutive quarters of higher highs. Okay, Momo up on the month as well. So Momo up on the month. This month is now done. Look at that month of July. In order to extinguish the Momo up condition in August, you got to break below that level there. That's 10% away. It means you got to come right back through the range again to break below 1766. Not saying that's impossible, because if that happens, you want to know about that. But that's what you need to see in order for that Momo to get extinguished. Okay, so that's your Momo condition. And on the weekly chart, right, we call it back here, the more recent run. This is tricky. This stuff here is tricky because you can see, you know, I've talked about it enough now. I don't know if you see it or not, but you know, if you see it enough times, that's a broad information. Okay, there's a bunch of, anytime you see a bunch of outside bars, you can see there's actually a broad information in play here. That low is going to be lower than some of these lows here. As they stop out everyone on the way down, then you get a Momo down move that gets extinguished right there, push it right back to all-time highs again. Then it gets choppy here, right? It gets choppy there, and then it cleans up right here. Outside, inside. This also played out in Bitcoin. As I said a couple weeks ago, I was getting long Bitcoin. Talk about that in the next chart. Outside, inside, and gone. 1, 2, 3, 4 weeks of higher highs. Small consolidation week, very tight week, and then unloads again. Inside, right? Sorry, double weeks up. So there's your 2 consecutive weeks up, and you know, again, huge week this week for gold. Up another 4.66%. Again, gold having a phenomenal year. Let's just see what the returns are so far. Up 30%, right? So that is a phenomenal year for gold. You know, trading at all-time highs pretty much. So at this point, yeah, gold is firing on all cylinders. Don't forget, it's Momo up in the quarter. So yeah, this thing is firing on all cylinders. People are rushing into gold, and not only they're rushing into gold, you know, they're rushing into cryptos as well. So you know, you're getting more and more talk now as people are finally catching on that Bitcoin and these crypto products, depending on which one we're talking about, may actually be a feasible alternative to holding physical gold, a feasible alternative to the current financial system, and people are beginning to recognize that. A lot of chatter this past week, or the past few weeks, with Visa and MasterCard agreeing to start working with some of these crypto coins. So let's talk about BTC now, since we're talking about that space. So let's look at the Bitfenix chart. Where's my Bitfenix chart? Here we go. And as you know, I've been long Bitcoin a couple weeks now. So where do we start? This here, big picture, right? As we always do. Outside, inside, and up. So there it goes. So there's the move on that was the break we were looking for, right? On the quarterly chart, this thing can easily run up now to this level, 13,174. Okay, so that's the level to look at. 13,174 up to 13,000. And for Bitcoin, this thing could just be getting started. Let's not forget though, right? Let's put things in perspective. It is still inside year. Okay, so let me turn off this log chart for a second. This is inside year. So the high here, the prior year is 13,764. So that's the tricky part there, is that can Bitcoin actually, I said 13,164, that's the prior year's high. So can it come back here and take it out with basically less than 2 quarters left to go, right? If it does that, it's gone, right? This is a possibility now that it can go a lot higher if it can break above last year's highs. That would be something. Again, I'm not one to predict, right? So I don't usually predict on these videos. That's not my nature to predict this. We're simply responding to price. But that's what you want to be looking for. If it breaks above there, this thing can really run, because that's the next pivot is that one there, 17,252. The question as always is, as traders, can you hold on to the trades to get you there? Because the moves are not always smooth, right? Sometimes it gets a bit choppy, and that causes traders to get out as they try to protect their profits. So here's the funny part, right? So we know what happened. Well, we know how this resolved now, and going into this month, right? So remember the month of this is June. This looked like a scary bar. Remember that? So people are like, Bitcoin's going to break back down to 7,000. I saw a lot of people write about stuff like this on, this nonsense on blogs, making bold predictions. And they end up getting a lot of egg on their face because they made these predictions. Fortunately, that's the nature of the game. But people like making predictions because even a broken clock can be right twice a day. So when they're right, they look like geniuses, and when they're wrong, they just basically fade into obscureness, or most people don't track them well enough to see their bad calls. So this is why we don't overreact to things and try to predict price as traders. So here, right, looks like a scary month. It's red. It's a red month, right? It's going to break down below there, and then it's going to fall apart. The reality is that this scary bar gets negated when you do something like that, right? Where you don't get a lower low. So you don't have to get super bearish until that low gets taken out. This is why we look at all those levels, because this low never got taken out. If you start getting really bearish just because this sort of looks like a doji, or maybe looks like a shooting star or some other candlestick, the reality is you're just looking at the highs and lows, and that low never got taken out, and that negates it, right? That's the month of July. Now look at August. It started off right with a higher high, right? Today's August the 1st. We're already up 3% for the month of August. So Bitcoin firing now on all cylinders. It's up outside, inside on the quarter now. That's the bigger picture, and this bit of chop now is what is behind us, right? So remember that outside, inside, like that gold chart. The gold chart actually happened a few weeks prior to that. But this outside inside got me back into Bitcoin. I got stopped out on that right here. Remember that? I said, okay, I'm getting back in again if it resets up back, above this 92, 98 level. And we broke that 2 weeks ago, not this week, this last week, and it's been gone, right? So you can just measure the R's on that. You put your stop below there, and that's a +6R trade. And again, full disclosure, I did. I'm out of this position that I got into using this Bitcoin chart, simply because I did not trail appropriately. We moved so quickly that I take profits before I could actually move them. I actually ended up getting out around here, 1190, I think right around here, right around 11,000, 10,998, somewhere in that level. But full disclosure, I'm long again, not BTC, but I'm long through GBTC. And as you well know, I'm also on a bunch of other coins, about 12 or other coins using similar setups, similar price patterns. So I like Ethereum a lot. That's been working out very well. Let's pull up that chart because we talked about that one. I think it's been 2 weeks ago. The Ethereum chart's looking really strong. In fact, the Ethereum chart's even stronger than Bitcoin's chart. So the Ethereum chart right there was up 53% for the month of July, and August already up 9%, close to 9%. But look, that was a way cleaner setup. So this is what I was expecting Bitcoin to do. As I said, I'm harping on, sometimes the charts aren't that clean, and you know, it just means you have to re-enter. So that was the point in last week's call video. Like, you know, you just have to re-enter sometimes, right? That means there's nothing wrong with the trade. When it resets up again, you get it back into the trade. Outside, inside, it's gone. Okay, so Bitcoin did a lower low, right, before it took off. Ethereum did not do that lower low, and I'm still long of Ethereum. This thing is gone. So that's a weekly setup, right? So people are, you know, that's the reality. You don't have to trade these really low time frame charts to make, you know, to make good returns, if you can get the proper levels and have the understanding of price. Ethereum, man, where's this guy gonna go? Well, 3-month chart. Can you see that? Outside, inside, and up on the 3-month. It took out that pivot already. Now on the 12-month chart, look at that. So that's interesting. Okay, so outside bar now on Ethereum for the year. So now that's the first time I'm seeing that, as I haven't checked on in a little while. That's interesting. So now you want to see how far this move goes. It's not, it's a reversal. So, you know, it's clearly it's people who got short down here. Hopefully they're not still holding, because you know, if you're short below here at 102.49, it's trading at 380, you're getting run over. So hopefully those guys covered already, and now they're blowing back through the other side. So let's see how far this thing goes. At this point here, it's an outside inside up on the quarter. It's just getting started. Okay, so let's fast fire a few more names here before we shut things down. On the weekly chart, let's talk about these first, and then we'll go through the stars and dogs. So the coming week, in the coming weeks, I'll be looking at these names. Here's a couple that caught my eye, or here a few that caught my eye. Outside, inside on Adobe. Got earnings though in month of September. That's far away, so this, you know, looks like it's going to get back to all-time highs. Okay, so Adobe looking interesting. Baba got earnings coming up this coming week. I think that may finally break this little bit of an impasse that we've had. Outside, actually, maybe we don't have earnings this week. I think it's on the 10th, so in 2 weeks. So triple inside week. How's that going to resolve going into earnings in a couple weeks? VIPS, another Chinese ADR name. This guy's been doing really well. Outside bar down. One more reversal happened on Friday, expecting that high to get taken out very easily. Earnings on the 17th, so in 3 weeks away, 3 business weeks away. Twitter, very close to hitting back those prior highs. Inside week, up, inside week. So here, what you don't want to see is you do not want to see this prior week's low get taken out to negate this current bullish bias. Right, so even though it's a red week, it's an inside bar. So if you can break that range, right, then this red week gets negated. People forget that it was a red week once you break above that high there, and then it can go higher, because on the 3-month chart, it looks like this. Okay, so on the 3-month chart, right there, it's an inside quarter and up. If you can break back above here again, 36.94. 36.94 is in this level right around here. If you get back above there, you're back above the inside quarter, prior inside quarter's high, and then you're gonna be back above here. If you can break back above there, it goes inside weekend up, and then Twitter can get, you know, back into these levels again. Now NIO, Chinese car company, looking interesting because we do have a outside inside now, consolidating after this big run up. This consolidation, you know, some people call it a flag. I don't use those terms because I think those are very subjective terms. What's more objective, and again, whatever helps you at the end of the day, but what's more effective is this. I see it's outside, inside, and I understand how these bars work, you know, and what they signify, which is more, I think, more serves me better instead of saying it's a flag pattern. Because a flag pattern, you know, what's the psychology behind that? Okay, KRE, because I can tell you bar for bar what that means. KRE, this one here, slowly making its way back up. So it had a Momo down condition. So this is what I call a Momo down reversal. It's Momo down, down, inside bar, down, and 2 weeks ago, it broke above that high. Okay, so there's your Momo bar, a Momo down reversal. That means that Momo down got extinguished, got reversed right there. It went up for a week and then basically just consolidated. So this week now, if you can break above this past week's high, KRE and a bunch of banks are going higher. Because that signals here, we had an inside bar reversal right there, right? And look on the monthly chart. Well, let's look at another example. Let's say, like, I know Morgan Stanley doesn't belong in the KRE basket, but here, possible inside bar reversal on Morgan Stanley. So part of the financial sector, this could be strengthening up here. I'm gonna change that to purple, because if we break above that level, man, the bank stocks are going to be on fire, and we're going to have a lot more, companies participating in this rally. Can you imagine if the financials start moving up as well? Then that's going to be quite something. A little tricky though, right? Because very often the financials are not correlated with gold. So if gold's heading up, traditionally gold and financial stocks do not go in the same direction, because in a way, gold is a bet against the financial system. So if you see gold going up, it's less common to see the financials always also ripping higher. So one to watch for there. This gets negated once again, as we said earlier, in a similar situation. You break below this past week's low, you're going down. The financials could be heading lower. Okay, TTD, another interesting name here. So then working its way back up. Outside bar down. Look at that. You get that inside week. And then we break above this past week's high. And you're going after that prior pivot right there. Okay, so TDD. Let's do one more. Let's go SMAR. We got earnings on SMAR coming up. I think it's Smart Sheet. This thing's taken a bit of a beating, but it's been consolidating. So this one outside bar down, outside inside down, consolidation. Now, we got earnings, I think, in a few weeks, right? So here earnings, the 31st. So we got a ways away still, close to a month away. 30 day, basically 30 days away from today's recording date. You got some time. This thing here, though, it does have some resistance to try to break through, and it is an inside month, but it is an outside inside on the month, right? So tech, the way it's been handling, tech has been ripping, right? So if this thing gets back into play, now that we have the month of July done, you want to see, let's put that in orange, you want to see if you can break above this past week's high, and then ultimately that may trigger some sort of outside inside and up on the monthly if the Smart Sheet move plays out to the upside. Okay, so that's it for the things that I'm watching for the next few weeks. Let's go into obviously there's a lot of earnings names I'll be watching as well. But let's talk about the stars and dogs now, and then we'll wrap things up. What's a star? Well, man, anything that's gold related. Gold, the metal itself on fire. Look at that chart. That's basically when I say stars and dogs. If you're joining me for the first time, I use the modified Sharpe ratio to basically measure the smoothness of the trend, and these things are trending very, very strong, indicating people are going into these products or assets. GLD, SLV, so anything shiny and metal, been ripping higher. GBTC, right? So we talked about Bitcoin already. That thing is going higher. So gold miners doing really, really well, like GDX. So that means all its constituents, things like AEM, ripping higher. Look at that. I think it's all-time highs, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, I think Agnico is at all-time highs. So I was trading this thing. It's Momo up on the daily chart. So really, everything going for it. Franco Nevada, man, all these gold names are ripping higher. Overstock, this has been a real surprising one to watch, because this one came out of nowhere. If you've been with me for a while, it looked like Overstock was going out of business back in March, right? As when it went Momo down in March, it looked like things were going out of business. That was an ugly chart. When you go from 80 plus, close to 90, you go down to 250, it looks like you're going out of business, all right? So that looked like it was going out of business, but look at that. Once you break above that high, it's a Momo up, it alleviates the Momo. It's a Momo down reversal. Boom. Takes that pivot right away, and it is gone. Right? It goes right back through the range again. Would not be surprised to see it go back to 89.60. So that thing has been on fire. Overstock, again, I guess it's the strengthening retail sector, and just its what can you say, its correlations to the crypto market. The digital asset market is probably the better way of saying it. So, how about some of the dogs now? Not everything is flying. There are some names that are trailing. Intel got smashed this past week. Poor Intel, some delays in terms of their product cycle, and they're getting smashed. That means AMD is, was the beneficiary. This is another thing that was doing really, really well. AMD flying those highs. Novartis, back to the dogs again. Novartis, I don't know what their product cycle is like, but investors not liking that. This thing got hit after earnings. Sold off to the lows. Beyond Meat earnings coming up this week here, but it's been very, very weak now. But this thing could be strengthening up here. We got consolidation happening here this past week. We'll see, but you got the quarterly open right there, so that's going to be tricky for Beyond Meat to break out of that. Very, very tricky, because here Beyond Meat, to get really, really bullish, you want to see Beyond Meat break above July's highs. That's far away. 131.53. Anything's possible. Sorry, 151.53, but it'll have to come through this range, right through that. Two more. Airlines are not the place to be yet. I tried along in some of these airline names. I tried along on UAL this past week, and I got out before it went any further because this thing is not signaling that it's ready to bottom yet. So UAL, AAL still going to those lows, and one final name that is a real dog right now, GE. So this thing used to be such a big component of the Dow. Now look, it's going back to getting close to those. Look, it broke below March's lows. It's getting very close to March's lows, 590. It got as low as 6. So again, here's your March lows down here, 590. And then your lows in May. So again, Momo down on GE. What a dog. All right, well, that brings us to the end of this week's video. I had a lot of fun doing it, as always. Hope you enjoyed it. Once again, I won't be here to drop a video next week, so this week's video will have to suffice for a couple weeks. So while I'm off, stay strong, stay healthy. If you enjoy these videos, please give it a big thumbs up. If you want to be notified when the next one drops in a couple weeks, then definitely click on the subscribe button in YouTube, or head over to the blog site where I have a newsletter where I share my trading perspectives and this video, and that comes out weekly, again off next week. But subscribe there at the blog at thetradingedge.org. And if you really like the videos, share them with your friends, colleagues, other folks who are into trading, so that they can get a different perspective if that helps them. So that's a wrap, and once again, thanks for all your time. See you in a couple weeks.